So we're about to dive into an experiment so revolutionary, so potentially world-changing, that the official story says it just failed. But what if it didn't? What if the evidence suggests it was buried on purpose?
Okay, so picture this. It's January 7th, 1943. We're inside room 3327 of the Hotel New Yorker. An 86-year-old man has just been found dead in his bed.
Now, when an old man dies in a hotel, you think you know who shows up first, right? But this situation was anything but normal. And the first people through that door were not who you'd expect, not by a long shot.
It wasn't a doctor. You know, the one who's supposed to show up and make it all official. Nope, he wasn't the first one there.
And it wasn't family. No grieving relatives rushing to the scene. In fact, get this, his family wouldn't even be told he was dead for 2 whole days.
The very first people to arrive were agents from the FBI, and they weren't there to investigate a crime. Oh no, they were there to seize every single piece of paper, every notebook, everything in that room.
Turns out the man in that room was Nikola Tesla, the genius who literally powered our modern world with AC electricity. But the government wasn't interested in his celebrated past.
No, the FBI wasn't interested in his past inventions. They were terrified of his final one. Their entire mission was to find the plans for a final, terrifying experiment, a technology he claimed was already up and running.
So the official story is that his last big ideas were just theories that went nowhere. But the government's panicked reaction makes you wonder, did it really fail, or was it stopped precisely because it was about to work?
To really understand that final experiment, we have to go back in time, back to his greatest dream, and the man who crushed it. This is a classic story, a beautiful vision of the future versus cold, hard profit.
See, Tesla's grand theory was just mind-blowing. He believed wires were primitive. His idea was to use the Earth itself as a massive electrical conductor. You could literally pump energy into the ground in one spot and pull it out anywhere else on the planet, for free.
And that's exactly where the dream hit a wall. His backer, the incredibly powerful banker J.P. Morgan, asked this one simple, devastating question. And it really sums up the whole conflict.
You see the clash, right? It's 2 completely different worlds colliding. You have Tesla's vision, energy that's free for everyone, with global reach, no wires, a utopia. And then you have Morgan's reality. It has to be profitable, it has to be controlled, and you better believe it has to be metered.
For a banker, the word free is a threat, so the funding was pulled, just like that. Tesla's magnificent Wardenclyffe Tower was demolished and sold for scrap, and with it, the dream of a wireless world died.
Humiliated, broke, his dream in ruins, something inside Tesla shifted. He went from trying to give the world global power to creating a weapon of war. It's almost like he said, fine, if you don't want free energy, maybe you'll pay for the ultimate weapon. He called it Teleforce. The newspapers, of course, nicknamed it the Death Ray. Now, what's really fascinating here is that this wasn't science fiction. He described it in detail, a weapon that fired a concentrated beam of particles that could cause immense destruction from hundreds of miles away.
And then there's this really strange coincidence. Back in 1908, a mysterious blast known as the Tunguska event flattened a huge area of Siberia, but left no crater. Years later, when Tesla announced his weapon, he claimed he'd already tested it. A lot of people speculate those 2 events might just be connected.
And these are Tesla's own words. He actually saw his invention as a defensive shield, a curtain of death so powerful it could make any country impossible to attack, which would, in his mind, end all war. Kind of a beautiful, if terrifying, idea.
Which brings us right back to that hotel room in 1943, back to the secret the government has been sitting on ever since. What did the FBI really find in there? Well, the official story is neat and tidy. The FBI brought in an MIT professor, John G. Trump, who looked at all the papers and said they were just philosophical thoughts, no practical blueprints. Basically, nothing to see here, folks. Case closed. But that neat little story has a major problem, because decades later, when the FBI's own files were declassified, they revealed a very specific number. Their agents recorded seizing 80 trunks of research from Tesla's hotel. 80! And yet, when the trunks were finally returned to his family, the official manifest listed only 60. This is the heart of the mystery. 20 trunks, filled with the final thoughts of one of the greatest inventors in history, just disappeared, while the government had them. So the real question is, what was in them?
We may never know for sure, but consider this. Years later, top-secret military programs started developing directed energy weapons. And wouldn't you know it, they were working on particle beams that bear a striking resemblance to the death ray concepts Tesla was talking about way back in the 1930s.
So we're left to wonder, was Tesla's dream of free energy, and later his weapon to end all war, stopped? And here's the final thought. Maybe the experiment wasn't a threat to our safety. Maybe it was a threat to our entire economic system. A system built not on free access, but on meters and profit.